Welcome to the Planning Commission meeting of December 12th, 2024. My name is Vern Crow, and I am the chairperson of the commission. The Planning Commission is a citizen body appointed by the City Council. The commission is empowered to make final decisions on certain matters, with those being appealable to the City Council. On other matters, the commission acts in an advisory role to the council, with the council making the final decision. You will have an opportunity to address the commission during the public hearing portion of the meeting. Your testimony is appreciated and encouraged. The commission acts from a written agenda, so you will need to fill out a yellow speaking card and give it to the city staff if you wish to speak on an item. Copies of the agenda and the speaker cards are located on the table just inside the main door to the chambers. At this time, please be sure to silence your cell phones. There are 7 members appointed to the Planning Commission, and at this time I will ask commissioners to introduce themselves and state the district they are representing, starting from my far right.
Tom Cole, Beryl District.
Martin Nowakowski, Yucca District.
John Gears, Ocotillo District.
Brian Hooper, Saguaro District.
Vern Crow, Cactus. Let the record show that all members except for Commissioner John Crow are present. He has an excused absence this evening. The Planning Commission receives staff assistance and guidance from the Planning Division and City Attorney's Office. Tabitha Perry, would you please introduce the city staff who are present this evening?
Good evening, Chairperson Crow and commissioners. Today before you, we have Jim Gruber, our Deputy City Attorney. Making presentations today would be our planner, Sydney Torella, as well as our senior planner, Alex Lerma, and also we have Tawanda Walker, recording secretary this evening.
Thank you, Ms. Perry. Now on to the approval of the minutes. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes of October 24th, 2024 and November 11th, 2024 Planning Commission regular meeting?
Chairman, I move that you accept the minutes for both October 2024 and November 14, 2024 as written.
Thank you, Commissioner Gears. Do I hear a second?
Support.
I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of October 24th, 2024 and November 14th, 2024 Planning Commission regular meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Ms. Perry, are there any withdrawals or continuances this evening?
Chairperson Crow, commissioners, there are none.
Thank you. As there are none, let's move on to the public hearing items. The purpose of the public hearing is to provide interested parties an opportunity to present testimony for the commissioner's consideration. We will follow the same procedures for each item, and that is, I will call the application number and the name of the applicant. Staff will present their report and answer questions from the commissioners. The applicant will be given the opportunity to make a presentation and answer questions from the commission. Other persons who wish to testify will be asked to do so and answer questions from the commission. The applicant will have an opportunity for closing comments if needed. Staff will be asked for a final comment on the application and procedural guidance. I will then close the public hearing and ask for a motion prior to further discussion, if any, from the commissioners. If you wish to speak on an item, you will need to state your name and your address for the record. Please be brief and to the point and avoid repetition. I reserve the right to limit the length of your testimony. All exhibits shown to the commission becomes part of the permanent record and must be submitted for the file. Large groups should designate a spokesperson. Applause and other disruptions which delay the hearing will not be tolerated. We have 3 public hearing items this evening. The first item is CUP 24-03. Ms. Torella will present the case.
Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. This is the conditional use permit presentation for the 60th Avenue Assisted Living Project. This is a request for a conditional use permit for an assisted living and memory care facility in the C1 zoning district. This vicinity map shows the location of the subject property in relation to City Hall. It is located approximately 3.5 miles from City Hall at the northwest corner of 59th Avenue and Mercer Lane. Here's a zoning map showing the subject property highlighted in yellow. You'll remember that this previously came before you for a GPA and rezoning application. So now this parcel is Zone C1. However, the remainder of the PAD to the northeast and south remained zoned as such. Across 59th Avenue is a mix of agricultural and single family, all with single family residential subdivisions. Here's an aerial map illustrating those uses that I just previously had mentioned. The subject property is the only vacant piece of property, as you can see, within this area, and there have been no development proposals for this site to date. This site overall is 1.61 acres, and that, as I had stated, is currently vacant. This is a transitional use between the low-intensity single-family residential subdivision to the north and the more intense commercial use to the south. In total, this proposal is for a 2-story, 60-room facility, and the site has been designed in consideration to the subdivision and the commercial to the south, which I will go into more detail here in the next slide. This is the conceptual site plan. You'll notice that the north arrow is pointing to the right of the slide. The massing of the building has been located nearest the intersection of 59th Avenue and Mercer, as opposed to the single-family residential. The area around the building includes a walking path through landscaping, which includes shade structures and seating areas throughout, which is intended to be utilized by the employees, residents, and visitors as well. Along the northern property line shared with the subdivision, there is an existing 6-foot wall that is CMU block, which will be increased to 8 feet after that, given that this is a commercial use adjacent to a residential use. The site itself is going to be secured with a wall proposed to be constructed of a mix of CMU block and wrought iron view fence. This wall will extend around the perimeter and will have pedestrian access from 59th Avenue and Mercer to be accessed by the staff. All of the public notification requirements were met. During the neighborhood meeting, there were 15 attendees. Some of the concerns that they had expressed concerned traffic, privacy, and parking. The previous site plan is an outcome of those concerns, with privacy and parking being addressed with the location of the site, with the location of the building on site, as well as a stipulation later that will address part of the traffic concern. After the comment period, 5 calls were received by myself in support of the project. And I'll now go into my analysis for this proposal. Along with the rezoning that I had previously mentioned and was previously heard before you, the general plan land use designation was updated to plan commercial, which encourages individual commercial sites such as this to operate in existing commercial developments. The proposed use is of low intensity and serves as a buffer between the single-family residential and the commercial. Between the proposed building and the single-family residential are parking and landscaping areas, which are within a 60-foot setback, a 60-foot building setback from the single-family residential subdivision. The subject property is adequately sized, with all the development standards of the C1 zoning district being met. And to further the buffering between the two uses, the screen wall that I had previously mentioned will be raised to 8 feet and made of CMU block. Vehicular traffic is limited to one access point along Mercer Lane, and this will be utilized by employees and visitors. The residents of the facility will not have their own personal vehicles. Planning staff worked with the applicant to orient the two-story building appropriately on the parcel, and I'll detail some more stipulations in the next slides, which also address these. Staff recommends Planning Commission approval of CUP 2403, subject to the following stipulations. Number 1, development shall be in substantial conformance with the site plan dated September 16th, 2024, and the project narrative, date stamped November 4th, 2024, subject to design review approval by the Development Services Department, Planning Division. Number 2, the existing screen wall along the northern shared property line shall be raised to 8 feet, subject to building permit issuance. And number 3, no driveway shall be constructed from the subject property to 59th Avenue. And with that, that concludes my presentation, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
Commissioners, any questions? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Will the applicant or applicant's representative like to come forward to state your name for the record and make any presentation?
Hello, Joshua Ayler with Arc One Associates. I don't really have a presentation. Been working with staff. Staff has been great with us. Sydney has been working very hard over the last few months to get a project that's worked well for the community and us. So with that, I'd just take any questions you have.
Thank you, sir. Commissioners,
Okay,
you got off free. That's a good thing.
thank you.
I have not received any speaker cards. Is there anyone here that would like to speak on this issue? Staff? Any final questions or procedural guidance?
Chairperson Crowe, Commissioner, there are none.
Okay, public hearing for case number CUP 24-03 is now closed. Do I hear a motion?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Cole,
I move to approve CUP 24-03 per the findings and subject to the stipulations contained in the staff report.
thank you, Commissioner Cole. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Are there any further comments or discussions regarding case CUP 24-03 from the commissioners? Commissioner Nowakowski?
Just a quick comment. Last night, I spent some time with former Vice Mayor and Council Member of the Beryl District, Tom Eggleston. And I think that Tom would be very proud of this development and the focus of it, you know, the specialized housing for seniors, the demographics that's being met by this, and the work with the neighborhoods. So thank you for this type of development.
Yeah, along those lines, I went by and looked at the site over the weekend, last weekend, and I think it's a perfect fit, and I don't see any kind of a negative impact on the neighborhood. Commissioners, anything else? Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve case number CUP 24-03, subject to the stipulations as outlined by staff. I will now conduct the roll call vote. Commissioner Cole,
Aye.
Vice Chair Nyberg,
Aye.
Commissioner Nowakowski,
Aye.
Commissioner Gears,
Aye.
Commissioner Hooper,
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Case number CUP 24-03 has been recommended for approval, subject to stipulations as outlined by staff. Mr. Gruber, what are the next steps?
Chair and Commission, your action with respect to case number CUP 24-03 is final, subject to a written appeal received within 15 days.
Thank you, Mr. Gruber. Our next agenda item is case number ZON 24-05. Mr. Lerma.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. Before you is a zoning action. The applicant seeks to rezone the subject property from planned area development to planned area development. Subject property is located approximately 13.2 miles northwest of City Hall. It is located at the southwest corner of Saraville Avenue and Peoria Avenue. Subject property is approximately 72.1 acres in size, and it is located within the Yucca District. Subject property is highlighted in yellow as identified within the zoning map. Property is currently zoned as planned area development. Property to the north is within the city of Surprise. That property is zoned also planned area development. Adjacent to the Loop 303, properties are also planned area development. Property to the south is planned area development. And properties to the east on the corner, that's within city limits, neighborhood commercial, and beyond that point is unincorporated area within Maricopa County. Those properties are rural residential, RU 43 and R 135. The property is currently a part of the Glendale 303 planned area development. Property is currently vacant. It's vacant and undeveloped. Most of the properties as seen here in the aerial map are undeveloped properties. With exception of to the east, where again identified are rural residential properties within the county. The applicant seeks, through this land use action, seeks to establish the necessary regulatory framework in order to establish on-site development. Through the new PAD that the property owner is trying to establish is more to fall in line with uses that are commercial and employment in nature. Through their land use table, those uses identified are going to be similar to those identified within the C2, the general commercial zoning district, and the M1 light industrial zoning district within the Unified Development Code. The proposed use for the site is going to be similar in nature to those PADs that are already been established in that surrounding area that are going to be more for industrial types of uses with a little bit of commercial to them. As seen here in the conceptual site plan, the first thing that you'll identify is that the site itself is in a unique configuration, which would require a substantial creative site design in order to make it work. Again, through the site design or through this conceptual site plan, you'll see that there are several buildings to the site. There are 6 buildings, flex buildings, that range from 7,000 square feet to 178,000 square feet, with a total building area of 956,932 square feet. Through the development standards that will allow the various types of building sizes and heights to accommodate different end users to the site. Applicants proposing 3 points of access to the site. 2 points of access are going to be established along Saraville Avenue, with 1 full access and 1 right in, right out, and a 3rd access along Peoria Avenue with a full access. Before you is a conceptual site plan, just showing additional elements to the site. Landscaping will be distributed throughout the site to beautify the site and to serve also as screening for the on-site activity. The property owner or the applicant, had a neighborhood meeting. This neighborhood meeting was conducted July 17th of this year. At said meeting, there was 2 surrounding neighbors that attended the meeting. They had questions about dark sky ordinance and the types of end users that the developer will be attracting to the site. Citizens participation final packet is included within the staff report to address all the additional details. Staff has completed their internal review of this project and is presenting the following analysis. The conceptual site plan demonstrates the effective use of land circulation and site arrangement. Again, we're dealing here with a site that has a unique configuration which will require a substantial creative site design. As displayed within the site plan, the buildings are arranged depending on where they're facing are arranged in a specific location. Those buildings that are proposed along or facing the 303 freeway are diagonal in nature in order to avoid the massing of the buildings and facing the ends of the buildings. Those that are up on the opposite side along Centerville Avenue are facing, or the facade of the building are facing Centerville Avenue in order to provide that additional screening for on-site activity, which include obviously the loading areas, the loading dock areas, the truck parking, and if proposed on-site or outdoor storage as well. Site plan also demonstrates pedestrian connectivity that will be incorporated both internal to the site and external to the site. No residential uses are proposed to the site. All uses are going to be strictly industrial or commercial in nature. The project will continue the land use trends in the area that have already been established. Again, most of the PEDs that are already established within the area are going to be industrial in nature, and this proposed use is going to be incompatible with those other surrounding PEDs that are already been established. The PED design standards will be the guiding tool to ensure that the building's architecture and overall site design are of high quality. The design standards that are within the PED narrative are reflective of the other design standards that have been established for those surrounding PEDs within that area. Adequate utilities exist in the area. EPCOR will be providing both water and wastewater to the site. As part of the development approval, additional right-of-way is being required along Centerville Avenue and potentially along Peoria Avenue. The developer will be required to complete all off-site improvements and provide connectivity to adjacent developments. The city's Glendale Transportation and Land Development Department have also reviewed the project and are in support of this proposal. The proposal is consistent with several of the goals and policies of the general plan. These include developing or encouraging economic diversity and concentrated growth in an established area with appropriate infrastructure, and developing transportation corridor along the 303 freeway. The 303 freeway will play a big part as within the success of this development. With this, staff recommends approval of ZON 2405, subject to the following conditions. I will address the conditions based on the memo that was provided to you by our admin staff. Stipulation number 1, development shall be in substantial conformance with Peoria and 303 PAD narrative, date stamped November 5th, 2024. Stipulation number 2, a 55-foot half-street right-of-way will be required along the property frontage on Centerville Avenue. An additional 10-foot right-of-way for a total of 65 half-street right-of-way will be required on the west side of Centerville Avenue between Peoria Avenue intersection and Driveway B. Driveway B will be referred through the traffic impact analysis map for location of Driveway B. Both proposed driveways on Centerville Avenue will require 150 foot of storage and 100 foot of taper to meet City of Glendale guidelines. Stipulation number 4, the developer may be required to provide additional right-of-way in advance of the Driveway A along right turn lane to ensure that the sidewalk is constructed within public right-of-way. Refer to traffic impact analysis map for location of Driveway A. Stipulation number 5, the developer will be required to complete all off-site improvements, which include the construction of a half-street roadway, turn lane, sidewalk, and landscaping along Cerevel Avenue per City of Glendale's regulations. And stipulation number 6, dedication of right-of-way and all required off-site improvements along Peoria Avenue shall be reviewed and approved by the City of Surprise and/or Maricopa County. Mr. Chair, members of the commission, this concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Lerma. Commissioners? Commissioner Nowakowski?
Great presentation. I'm just kind of curious, the properties between the retention basin, the 2 structures close to Peoria and the 4 along the 303. Now, that's the development area. The 2 structures, the 2 land areas that are not part of this, is that owned by the same person? I know part of it's in Maricopa County and the other one might be in Glendale, but are there plans to annex the property from Maricopa County? I'm just wondering if you have any history on those 2 parcels.
Through the chair, Commissioner Nowakowski, question, the properties that you're referring to are the one that's labeled as Maricopa County?
Yes.
Directly south? And that is not the same property owner. That's somebody, that's a different property owner that's currently, I believe, in the process of selling that property as well. It seems like with the land use trends within this area, eventually that property will be annexed into the city as well.
I got you. Just looked at how it is, that Z shape or whatever it is, a little bit odd for the driveways and getting to the far side along 303, but I get it. And the other property, any idea?
Though, through the chair, Mr. Nowakowski, Commissioner Nowakowski,
Mhm.
are you referring to the property that has the arrow on top of it?
Yes, at Peoria and 303.
It's my understanding that I don't know if that's underneath the same ownership. I believe the applicant can answer that question.
Okay.
That property will remain under the existing PAD, the Glendale 303 PAD.
All right. And there's no driveways, as you mentioned, along the 303 entering the 4 structures that are in the planning along the 303.
Through the chair, Commissioner Nowakowski, based on the conceptual site plan that was provided, all access points are going to be along Cerevel Avenue and Peoria Avenue. There is no proposal for direct access along the Loop 303.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lerma. Okay, would the applicant or applicant's representative like to come forward, state your name for the record, and make any presentation or answer any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. My name is Jason Morris with the Morris on behalf of the applicant. If I may, Mr. Chair, Mr. Lerma has done a great job giving the presentation. I don't want to go over information that staff has already given. We've had a very good working relationship with staff, and Ms. Perry, Mr. Lerma, put up with several questions and interpretations as we've gone through this, because although it looks straightforward, it was a little bit more complicated. So if I may, I'm just going to address Commissioner Nowakowski's questions, because I'm afraid I'll forget if I don't. The owner of the hard corner is Walmart, small retail group based out of Arkansas. And it was actually part of the backstory of why this property wasn't developed is Walmart owned that property prior to the development of the 303. And when the 303 was created, the remaining parcel for Walmart was smaller than Walmart had anticipated in terms of the uses that they could make of it. And it wasn't until very recently that the original case goes back to 2005. So in that 20 intervening years, there hasn't been any development on these properties, but very recently, with this property owner working with Walmart, there was actually an opportunity to square off some of those property lines to make it a little bit more usable for both properties. And as a result of that, we've been able to move forward with the PAD application. But the 2005 case was really heavily dependent upon power centers and car dealerships. And we know today there aren't a lot of new power centers popping up, and the car dealerships have already migrated to other areas. So the use that we're proposing in terms of the industrial use is more in keeping with what's occurring in this corridor. And what we've tried to do is also work with your economic development department so that the size of the buildings that we're offering aren't mirroring existing buildings that are already in the area, but they're offering a slightly different size and configuration so that smaller users, not just what we refer to as the industrial bomber buildings, are being developed at this site. However, we were also encouraged to keep a retail component, which is why you see the retail component along Peoria Avenue. So that remains and would have been permitted under the existing use. And then the other concern that was really brought forth by the neighborhood meeting to some degree, but really just knowing people in the neighborhood who live on the other side of Saraval, the east side of Saraval. There's a county island there with a large lot development. And although our 600-foot radius wouldn't have required us to notice every neighbor in that district, we ended up notifying, worked with staff, and then ended up notifying every homeowner, property owner in that subdivision. And their concern and their priority was twofold. One was lighting, as well as traffic. They wanted to see what that traffic pattern was. And then they were also concerned about the landscape buffer. So we ended up increasing the landscape buffer on that side. Obviously, Glendale has standards about dark sky lighting and shoebox lighting to make sure our lighting is directed downward at the property line. And then the traffic issue, I think, was mitigated by the fact that our traffic study for what's existing today versus proposed shows a dramatic decrease in overall traffic. The number's a 205% decrease in traffic, but it's about, I think, 11,000 trips less with our proposal today than what exists. So hence, we're very lonely tonight, not seeing any neighbors, but I know there's a lot of questions you have for Mr. Greathouse's case next, so I'll cut off my presentation.
I want to thank you for that, being really honest. And, you know, my concern was the next development is going to also have driveways and adjacent to the neighborhood. That was the rationale for my questions. And that prime corner along the freeway in Peoria, so.
Precisely. Mr. Chair
You
and
nailed it,
Commissioner, that's a well-placed question, and it's actually, I'm glad you mentioned, that's one of the reasons that the driveway that we show, the second driveway along Saraval, is at the far end of our development, because I think the thought process is ultimately that will become a joint development probably along that property line, so we're not looking at multiple driveways. Thank you very much. I'd be happy to answer any other questions.
Anything for Mr. Morris? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I don't have any speaker cards. Are there any members in the audience that would like to speak? In that case, the public hearing for case number ZON 24-05 is now closed. Do I hear a motion?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Nowakowski,
I move to recommend approval of ZON 24-05, subject to the stipulations presented by staff tonight.
thank you, sir. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Are there any comments or discussions further from the commissioners on case number ZON 24-05? Okay, hearing none, I have a motion and a second to approve case number ZON 24-05, subject to stipulations as outlined by staff. I will now conduct a roll call vote. Commissioner Cole.
Aye.
Vice Chair Nyberg.
Aye.
Commissioner Nowakowski.
Aye.
Commissioner Gears.
Aye.
Commissioner Hooper.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Case number ZON 24-05 has been recommended for approval, subject to the stipulations as outlined by staff. Mr. Gruber, what are the next steps?
Chair and Commission, your action with respect to case number ZON 24-05 is not final. Your recommendation will be forwarded to the City Council.
Thank you, sir. Okay, our next agenda item is case number ZON 24-06. Again, Mr. Lerma.
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, before you is another zoning action. The applicant is proposing to rezone the subject property from planned area development to planned area development. Property is within the same area. It is located 13.5 miles west of City Hall. Subject property is 9.4 acres in size, and it is located on the northwest corner of north of the northwest corner of Bethany Home Road and the Loop 303 freeway. Property is located within the Yucca District. Subject property is zoned planned area development. Again, it is a part of the Conan Properties planned area development. Those properties to directly south and west are within the same PAD, the Cardin Properties PAD. To the east, properties are also, and beyond the Loop 303, properties are also zone planned area development as part of the Park 303 PAD. And those properties to the north are also zone planned area development, part of the Air Park 30 planned area development. Subject property is currently vacant, has remained undeveloped. Historically, it's been used for agriculture purposes. As you can see here as well, most of the surrounding properties are vacant, with the exception of the properties directly west. Those are some industrial buildings that are part of the Conan Properties PAD. And eventually, or sooner, the development to the north is going to be developed as commercial. Again, the subject property is part of Conan Properties PAD. The Conan Properties PAD is an area that encompasses 161 acres in total. The existing PAD designates this specific area for commercial uses, and again, it is currently vacant. The property has failed to develop under the existing planned area development, mainly due to the site's commercial classification. Other components may also play a factor in this. For most commercial properties, the property doesn't have exposure along the Bethany Home Road, and it doesn't have direct access along Bethany Home Road, which are two also contributing factors that might play to the failure of the property being not being developed. Through the zoning action, the applicant proposes to transition the property over from commercial to industrial site, which will be more appropriate for the area, which is a little bit further tucked in from Bethany Home Road. Within the proposed PAD, the applicant is also proposing for flexibility on development standards in order to accommodate for various type of end users. Through the conceptual site plan, the site plan shows proposal of two industrial buildings totaling 137,168 square feet in total floor area. Building heights are going to range from 24 feet in height to 28 feet in height. These buildings have the potential to go up to 70 feet in height with approval of the FAA. Site access is done by way of a private drive that is directly linked to Bethany Home Road going southbound. Here's a conceptual site plan, building renderings of what the site might look like. The applicant is currently going through a design review process as well, through comments going back and forth. The developer has made changes to the original layout of the building in order to comply with our basic standards, our base standards for design for industrial buildings. Applicant has completed the citizens outreach process. Notification letters were distributed to surrounding property owners on October 18th, 2024. There was no neighborhood meeting that was required by city staff based on the existing surrounding area, which are all industrial in nature. To this point, neither city staff nor the applicant has received any type of communication based on this notification letter that was distributed October 18th. Staff has completed their internal review and provides the following analysis. The adoption of a new PED will assist in providing more flexibility to the site that has remained underutilized and undeveloped under the existing Cotton Properties PED. Through the handicap PED, updated regulations and design criteria will be established, and the desired end users will be reoriented from commercial to industrial land uses. It's anticipated that the site development will include 2 separate buildings to accommodate various types of industrial end users. No residential uses are proposed as well for this proposal. Keep in mind that the property is located within the Luke compatible land use area, or the 70 LDN, which is a Luke compatible land use area, which prohibits residential uses. The handicap PED main objective is to provide development that offers a mix of end users, mainly focused on industrial activity and at a lighter scale, commercial. The PED encourages an innovative approach to on-site development by providing the project that is complementary to and compatible to the surrounding area, keeping in mind that industrial uses have already been established directly westbound. The project is continuing with the same land use trends. To site design, the development will make the best use of the property. Typically, the developer is dealing with a property that's approximately 9 acres in size, and is utilizing the best use of the property by locating the buildings and arranging the buildings in the best way possible in order to take advantage of the land. Adequate utilities exist on the site. Again, EPCOR is providing water and wastewater to the site. No public right-of-way is dedicated for this project based on the fact that they're having their access along a private roadway. This developer will be required to provide connectivity to adjacent developments in the form of sidewalks. City of Glendale Transportation and Land Development Department have reviewed the proposal and are in support of the proposed PAD. The development, the proposal is consistent with several of the goals and policies of the general plan. These include Economic Development Element Policy 2.3, which indicates that the property is located near a major transportation corridor along the 303, which is significant for the development in order to establish a successful industrial site near the major highway. And Land Use Policy 2.1, which requires that that city and the developer include Luke Air Force Base through the design review process and the building permit process. With this, staff recommends that Planning Commission forward a recommendation of approval for ZON 2306, subject to the following stipulations. Stipulation number 1, developer shall be in substantial conformance with the handicap PED narrative, date stamped November 6, 2024. And stipulation number 2, prior to the project's issuance of the certificate of occupancy, a development agreement with the city and the developers must be approved by City Council related to the appropriation cost share of the traffic signal at 169th Avenue alignment. Mr. Chair, members of the commission, this concludes my presentation.
Commissioners, anything for Mr. Lerma?
One question.
Commissioner Nowakowski.
One question, Mr. Lerma, and this might be the developer's person might be able to answer this. In their planned area development for its handicap, in this document, submitted August 29th, resubmitted November 6th, there are permitted uses on the site, so I guess that's what we're approving and what can go in. But they also provide a list of supplemental use regulations, stuff like cemeteries, adult businesses, marijuana dispensaries, marijuana manufacturing. Do those go through a different approval process? Do those supplemental use come through another approval? Or are we approving those uses also tonight?
Through the chair, Commissioner Nowakowski, I believe you're referring to the special uses, right? The special use permit, those uses that require a special use permit.
It states supplemental use regulations.
Okay, so referring back to the land use table that's within the handicap narrative, there's supplementary regulations that reflect those that are similar to the ones within the Unified Development Code. For example, marijuana dispensary, right? It might be allowed in specific zoning district, but they gotta meet several other requirements. In this case, distance requirements. A different example would be any industrial site that's allowed by right within the M1 zoning district, and through the supplementary use regulations, it requires them to be a certain distance away from other uses and have screening requirements. The land uses table does mimic, as far as formatting, this it mimics the Unified Development Code. There are uses within the handicap that would require a special use permit, and I believe that's what you're referring to.
Yes.
The cemeteries, medical marijuana, those type of uses. Those uses are, the way that I could compare it to would be similar to a conditional use permit, where we're looking at it through a site-to-site basis and applying additional conditions in order to mitigate that use from the surrounding area. Those type of uses are required to go through a public hearing process as well as a conditional use permit would as well. So any of those uses that are listed as requiring a special use permit will need to come back through the Planning Commission and then City Council.
All right, staff, is supplemental the same as a conditional use permit then? Just
Mr.
want to be
Lerma?
clear.
The findings are going to be different. A conditional use permit has specific findings that need to be met in order to for staff to provide a recommendation of approval. The special use permit is a little bit more unique. It's something used that the city has established through the Unified Development Code. So the findings are going to be somewhat different.
All right, thank you.
So that everybody else understands that what we're not necessarily approving all of those supplementals tonight, because if somebody wants to do something that's on the supplemental list, it has to come back through the process. Is that correct?
Mr. Chair, that is correct. Again, those uses that are identified with as a special use would require them to come back through a public hearing process for approval.
Good. Thank you, Mr. Lerma. Would the applicant or applicant's representative like to come forward, state your name for the record, and make any presentation?
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. I have a presentation here, but I'm not going to make a full presentation. For your record, my name is Brian Greathouse with the law firm Birch and Caracciolo. And to answer the question in maybe the same way, but maybe it'll help to clarify things a little bit more. We had a prior version of our PAD where we just referenced M1 permitted uses are allowed in this PAD and on this site. We were asked by staff to copy and paste those into the PAD. So that's what the list of uses that you see in the PAD are. They're directly from the UDC that exists today. We just copied and pasted them in there. Certain uses have supplemental regulations that don't apply to all types of uses, but they do apply to some of the uses. So we haven't done anything special. We're just M1 light industrial, just like your UDC provides. Happy to answer any more questions if you have them.
Commissioners? Commissioner Nowakowski.
I'm talkative tonight, sorry, coffee. Mr. Greathouse, what's going on in the corner, 303 in Bethany? It's a commercial development there?
Yeah,
you know?
Commissioner, in fact, I represent QT on that site just south of this site that's adjacent to Bethany Home Road. We had a Board of Adjustment meeting about 2 hours ago on that site. So they're going through design review. I believe we're in third review on that, they being QT. We had been representing a car wash user on what's called the Geller property. They did not move forward with that property acquisition. But that whole corridor down there on Bethany Home Road is moving forward as commercial development. IndyCap is tucked back in the corner. The visibility is very bad. It's adjacent to a future United Rentals industrial type facility, and then there's obviously industrial buildings to the west. So we think it makes good sense of what's been proposed and matches what's being developed around the area.
Right, thanks for the insight.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Greenhouse. Okay, I have no speaker cards. Are there any members of the audience that would like to speak? Okay, hearing none, the public hearing for case number ZON 24-06 is now closed. Do I hear a motion?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Nowakowski?
I move to recommend approval of ZON 24-06, subject to the stipulations as presented by staff.
Thank
Second.
you. Do I hear a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve case number ZON 24-06, subject to stipulations as outlined by staff. I will now conduct a roll call vote. Commissioner Cole,
Aye.
Vice Chair Nyberg,
Aye.
Commissioner Nowakowski,
Aye.
Commissioner Gears,
Aye.
Commissioner Hooper,
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Case number ZON 24-06 has been recommended for approval, subject to the stipulations as outlined by staff. Mr. Gruber, what are the next steps?
Chair and Commission, your action with respect to case number ZON 24-06 is not final. Your recommendation will be forwarded to the City Council for further consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Gruber. Ms. Perry, is there any other business this evening?
Chairperson Crowe and Commissioners, thank you. Yes, under other business, staff is seeking discussion and a consensus for the 2025 Planning Commission goals. Before you in your packet or on the dais, you should see a draft memo of the proposed goals for the commission to consider. In summary, there are a total of 5 goals. The first one being a continuation of working on amendments to the Unified Development Code. The second one would be providing the commission with updates of legislative actions that may impact regulations that have been approved by the Planning Commission and/or City Council. And then as well, we need to start the endeavor of the comprehensive rewrite and adoption of the general plan, which will require a lot of interaction and involvement from the commission. The fourth item being continuous training in the annual reports as requested by the commission. And then the fifth goal or proposed goal is establishing the 2026 goals relative to things that the Planning Commission would like to accomplish, and as well as identifying what the 2026 calendar would be for the Planning Commission. And with that, Chairperson Crowe and Commission, Hopefully, these goals are acceptable to you. If you have any question pertaining to these goals, I'll be happy to elaborate. And or if you would like to strike any of the goals or add on any additional goals, that's what we're hoping to receive from you this evening. And in conclusion, a consensus on the goals.
Commissioners, Commissioner Cole?
Mr. Chair, after reviewing the proposed goals, certainly the UDC is something that we are well invested in and continue to work on. That's something we should have anticipated as an ongoing activity for this commission. And certainly with the rewrite and adoption of the general plan, I think these are, the rest of them seem fairly much like housekeeping to me, and I think that it's a reasonable list. So I would tend to support what staff has proposed.
Thank you, Commissioner Cole. Commissioner Nowakowski?
I didn't raise my hand, but hey, I got some comments. No, I really appreciated the legislative change updates. I think that's valuable, especially when the legislature is now putting their statewide superseding our local control. So making it more cookie cutter than customized and getting the input of neighborhoods, saying this is what's going to happen. So I appreciate the updates there. And then I think another, I haven't been on the commission for years, is when we approve something and it goes to council, if they add significant stipulations to something or deny something that we recommended approval, maybe it'd be nice after the commission meeting or your updates at the end of the meeting to just let us know council did deny this and this was their reasons. That's a learning and educational opportunity for us to understand and what to look out for in future considerations. Just a thought. Otherwise, I agree with Commissioner Cole.
Gentlemen? Do we have a consensus then as presented? We do.
Thank you.
Anything further, Ms. Perry?
Chairperson Crowe, not under item number 6, but I do have follow-ups for item number 7, plan and staff report.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. The first thing, Commission, staff anticipate bringing before you the 2024 annual report, ideally within February of 2025. And during that report, I believe we can also incorporate if there were any recommendations for it to council in which council may have denied the recommendation from Planning Commission and or any significant stipulations that was added. So we'll include that in our annual 2024 report.
Awesome.
And then lastly, on behalf of the staff, we just want to acknowledge the commission and our appreciation for your dedication and commitment for serving as the Planning Commission. We really appreciate that you guys take the time to thoroughly look through the staff reports, ask relevant questions so that you're able to make a sound decision. We appreciate the feedback that you've given us throughout this year. Hopefully you have seen where we have incorporated those changes and even considered the suggestions that you provided to us. This is our last meeting for 2026. So once again, on behalf of staff, thank you very, very much. And we wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Ms. Perry. And along those lines, I know as the chair, you get a lot more involved behind the scenes and before the meeting and so on and so forth, and we have a lot of communication going on. And I appreciate Tawanda's input and help on anything that I needed, and especially you, Ms. Perry, with your constant input and help and guidance. I really, really, really appreciate it. And not to leave out Mr. Gruber. Thank you, Mr. Gruber. Staff, thank you. Mr. Lerma, thank you very much. Okay. Are there any further comments from the commission? Any suggestions? Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak on an item not on tonight's agenda? Okay, the next regular meeting of the Planning Commission will be held on January 23rd, 2025 at 6 p.m. If there's no further business, I will now entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.